Now that we have our site installed, we're going to go through some basic setup. After we've done the basic setup, we'll get into the more advanced stuff so we can get the site looking the way we want. Okay, now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over to configuration and click on that. Now, there may be an error up here, and if there is one, this is what you need to check first. Okay, so we can just click here where it says status report, and it'll bring out any errors, and usually it's going to be a file permission error. Okay, so if we look through here, we'll be able to find out what it doesn't like. So it says here temporary files directory. So the Drupal temporary files directory needs to be fully protected. So what it's telling us here is that we need to add a htaccess file to the /temp directory. Okay, now when you click on this link here, it'll bring up some more information. Now reading through this, it looks like when you go down to versions affected that it is core 7.x versions prior to 7.24, and this is version 7.27 that we just installed here. So that one looks like it isn't an issue even though it's flagging it. Now if you do need to fix it, you can follow the instructions in here, which basically say to take this code, where is it here, for 7.x, to basically take this code that's in this window here and create a htaccess file out of it, and then copy it into the /temp directory, which is the /temp directory on your server. Okay, so for this instance, I'm just going to ignore that one. And the next thing we have here is the update notifications that I turned off at the beginning on purpose. Remember that? So I could enable that if I want. And then another one down here is just telling that we could install a module on our server to give us the update progress as something's updating and give us a status bar. So I don't care about that. All right, so let's go back to configuration again. So I'm just going to ignore that message there in this instance. Okay, so let's go over to System and Site Information. Okay, so we started on this when we first set up the site, but now we can put a slogan in here if we want. So I'm just going to put it in my Drupal site. So basically I'm just showing you that you can come back in here and set anything you missed or reset anything that you need to reset. Okay, so there's our email address we put in at the beginning. So here we have number of posts on the front page, default front page. Now we haven't set a front page yet, but when we come back, we'll be coming back to this. And then error pages. Okay, so default 403 page, access denied. You could have it go to your home page or whatever page you want just by putting in here the page you create. And default 404 page means the page wasn't found, so you could have it put somewhere else. Okay, so let's save the configuration. Okay, now to get out of this completely, if you hit this X over on the right, then it's going to take you right back to your home page and out of configuration. And also you can click up here to get back to a certain spot. So if we were to click on administration, for instance, go to administration, but we're in system now, so if we want to go to configuration, we can click there and it'll go back to configuration. I don't want to get too deep into these. Most of these you're going to want to leave at the defaults. Well, let's take a quick tour here. So let's go into account settings. Okay, so anonymous users, you can give them a name for anonymous users. Administration role, you're going to want to leave that at administrator, or you can disable an administration role, but I wouldn't do that. Okay, who can register an account? So administrator, visitors, but administrator approval is required. So you set these the way you want. Require email verification. The actions you want when disabling a user account. Personalization, so you can enable signatures and enable user pictures. where your pictures are going to be uploaded. Okay, so you're probably not going to want to change that. If you want to upload a picture for users that don't upload their own picture, you want to put a default picture, this is where you would set that up. Okay, then you have your picture display style. So you can set the size there. Okay, pictures larger than this size will be scaled down. Upload file size in kilobytes. And then you can put your picture guidelines here as just text that you can put in to tell them what your picture guidelines are. Okay, so far, you probably don't need to change any of that unless you want to. I'm not changing any of it. A lot of these things that you are going to be leaving at the defaults. Okay, and then here's where you can change the emails. Fortunately, it comes with default emails that are perfectly adequate for the job, but if you want to change them, this is where you do that. So you can just save anything there. Let's go back out to configuration. So that was people. And IP address blocking, just what it sounds like. If you're getting trouble from somebody, you can just block their IP address here just by adding it. Okay, so next we have content authoring in text format. So this is just telling us who can use what formats, in other words, HTML or text. Okay, so filtered HTML, anonymous users, authenticated users, and administrators can use that. Full HTML, only administrators, and plain text, all roles can use plain text. Okay, so you probably don't want to change that either, but you can if you want. Okay, let's go down to media. Here's our file system. Okay, so our public file systems path, our private file systems path. Now this one would have to be not writable to the web if you're going to use that. Temporary files directory is /temp. That's the one on our server that I was talking about before. And your default download method. I'm not sure why you even have this here because you can't change it anyway. Okay, so that's that one. Again, probably not going to want to change anything in there. Okay, then our image styles. So that's pretty self-explanatory. It's going to show you, or this is going to let you choose how big your images are. So thumbnail, 100 by 100, medium, 220 by 220, and large, 480 by 480. Okay, so you can edit these if you want. Okay, down to Image Toolkit. This is a server-side type of thing that will look after your image editing for you, and is telling us that the GD Toolkit is already installed and working properly on the server. Okay, our JPEG quality 75%, so you can change that if you want. Again, nothing to change there, unless you want to. Okay, next let's go to search and metadata. So the first thing we have is search settings, and this configures our search index on the site, which will help us in the search options on search engines, if that makes sense. What I'm trying to say here is that the site itself will index a bunch of words or all the words on the site, and then those will help the search engines find what's on the site. Okay, so far there's been nothing done here. Index throttle. Again, you can probably leave these all at the defaults unless you want to change something. Okay, so let's go back to configuration. Okay, next we have URL aliases. And what those allow us to do is to make our URLs more search engine friendly. So if we go to add new, you can create different kinds of aliases for different kinds of parts of your site. So a node is like a page or a post. Forum is a forum, of course. You have taxonomy, which is like categories or terms. So if you put here node, and then, for instance, if we wanted to make a alias for node, we could put node here, And then we could put page down here, and instead of node, when we were displaying a page, it would show page. So the default way this would show would be the domain name /node/1 for page 1. If we change this to page, it would be domain name /page/1. Okay, and we can go further than that, but I just wanted to show you this bit here so that you know how that works. Okay, back to configuration. Next, we have clean URLs. Okay, so clean URLs just allow you to clean up the URL a little bit. So you see here is an example, /user instead of /q equals user, or !q equals user. So that's what it does. It basically cleans up your URL a little bit. Let's just make sure that that's in effect. Back to configuration. Okay, and then down here, regional settings. So this is your time. So you can give your default country here if you want one. This is for signing up. First day of the week. You've seen some of the stuff like this in WordPress, and then your time zone. You just can set their own time zone. So you can just set all this up the way you want. It's just some configuration for the options on your site. Okay, back to configuration. Okay, and date and time. So this is showing you the long, medium, and short way that your time is going to be shown. So you can change these to the way you like it in your region of the country. So if you like year, month, day in this format, you can use that. If you like month, day, year, however you like to do it. And then, of course, you can change these as well. Okay, so any changes is just saved there. Okay, we start a little bit on this side. Actions, that just shows you the things that you can do in your site. So these are your available actions. You can create other actions here if you need. But again, usually the defaults are fine for this. And then we have our cron jobs. These are jobs that can then be set to automatically happen on your site. Okay, so you see that it ran 8 minutes ago. So whenever your site is loaded, it'll see if a cron job needs to run. And then you can set the cron period down here, however often you want it to run, and then save here. You can also run it manually anytime you want by clicking right there. And you see that down here, you can just click on this URL from anywhere, and it'll run the cron job as well. Okay, so cron takes care of a lot of background things that your site needs to do. Okay, user interface. These are your shortcuts. Okay, so these are shortcut sets, and this is the defaults that are already in here. And if we click on this, you'll see that it shows that you can add content and you can find content. And if you edit these, let's have a look, it'll point you to a URL that shortcut runs. So what this is going to do is the URL /node/add is what that one will run when it's chosen. Okay, and then you can add shortcuts, sets. You can give it a set name. And you can create the new set. And then here you can add some new ones in here. So let's add a shortcut. And then you can give it a name here, and then what the URL is to that shortcut. So if you had a shortcut that said go to the home page, you would say go home. And the home page is going to be right here, so you can just say save. Okay, so there is a shortcut set. Now, where those take effect are in your user area. So if we go over here and have a look at the user area, or the profile, and then we can go to shortcuts. Okay, so we have the default mu that was supposed to be new, or you can create a new set yourself here. So each user can create their own shortcuts if they like. Okay, so that's how you can use shortcuts. Okay, and then we have some development stuff. So we can increase the performance by turning on some caching items and disabling some things. So cache, you can set the minimums and so on. And bandwidth optimization. So probably not something you want to do unless you know what you're doing there. Logging in errors. So this is going to just determine what you're going to put in your database log for either none, errors and warnings, or all messages. Okay, and then the size of the log. Okay, so that can help with debugging if something is going wrong. Okay, and then maintenance mode, this is just so you can basically turn your site off to other users if you're working on it. So you just put it in maintenance mode here. Okay, and then RSS publishing. So what this does for you is it lets you configure the way your feed looks that comes from your site. So you can give a feed description up here, and then the number of items in each feed, and whether you're going to give it a full text or a summary here. Okay, so really that's all we have for configuration. So let's get you really set up so that you can get your site rolling and get it looking the way you want. So in the next video, we're going to go over looking at the content and structure of our site.